Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today's battle is from the ongoing tournament over at Clan Community, pitting Morgengrat's Wood Elves against Forest Rooster's Vampire Counts. Clan Community hosts tons of competitive Total War, and if you want to wet your feet with a great community, you should check the link out in the description below. Orion takes command of the Wood Elves with Foeseeker, Hawk's Talon, and Hounds of Orion, while his Branch Wraith brings Blessing of the Ancients, Call of the Woods, Earthblood, and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. 4 units of Eternal Guard and 1 unit of Eternal Guard with shields will do well enough against the Vampire Counts and free up more points for a larger army. 4 units of Dryads will provide coverage, and their immunity to psychology means they won't be as easily turned from the field with fear and terror, and will manage to stay and protect the Wood Elf archers for longer. The 2 units of Wildwood Rangers will make very quick work of most armored enemy units, while the 3 units of Glade Guard come in with Starfire Shafts for range support. As always, fire damage is a great pick against a faction that might bring regeneration to the field. Finally, we have the Sisters of the Thorn, not a unit we see often enough. They'll be able to kite to mix in poison damage, have the ability to intercept enemy infantry without instantly withering away, and they'll also have access to Shield of Thorns and the Curse of Anraer. The former will help melee engagements, while the latter will ensure they're less likely to happen, and that the Elves are able to kite more safely. The Red Duke rides in to lead the Vampire Counts with the Curse of Undeath, the Hunger, Invocation of Nehek, Raise Dead, Arcane Conduit, Red Fury, Undeath Resurgent, and El Sif. His White King rides in as well to provide support, while 2 units of Zombies, 2 units of Skeleton Spearmen, 2 units of Graveguard, and the Stearnsmen form a capable and relatively large infantry line, hoping to bog the enemy down and open avenues for the larger and faster units to penetrate through. 2 units of Blood Knights will make quick work of most Wood Elf large units, while the 2 units of Direwolves in the Dire Pack will try to chase down roaming range units alongside the Crypt Horrors, who can all also be used to support the front lines with charges from multiple directions. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about deployment, and it gets very wild in this one. I have to zoom all the way out so that we can see it all. Let's start with the Wood Elves, and in fact, let's start with where Orion is placed. You'll see he is up front with the Sisters of the Thorn, and it's mainly to get some information early on and also to get some early damage in. Orion, of course, has his bombardment spell as well as the Hound, so the Sisters of the Thorn as well, able to fire early on, so just poking forward, getting some early damage in. Meanwhile, most of the rest of the Wood Elf army is all the way back here, tucked away in the trees, all of them hidden. We have these 2 units of Eternal Guard over here on the left, 2 units of Eternal Guard on the right, and the Eternal Guard with shields in the center alongside the Branch Wraith. Behind these guys, we have a unit of Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts apiece. We'll see one there, and one over here, and these guys at the same time have a unit of Dryads behind them as well. So one over here, and one over here. Again, these guys able to protect the archers from any early cleverness, rear charges, flanking maneuvers, and anything that's been Vanguard deployed as well. Meanwhile, at the same time, we do have these 2 units of Wildwood Rangers. These guys able to push in and provide support wherever necessary, able to push through these gaps as well, coming from the flanks, from the sides. Depending on how the lines engage, these guys are able to push in a multitude of directions and will help however it might be needed. Finally, the last unit of the Wood Elves, the Dryads over here. This deployment is sort of indicative that the Wood Elves were expecting a Vanguard deployed unit, and lo and behold, we do have the Direwolves down here, so very interesting to see that placement over there. Unfortunately, just too far away, these guys, to actually spot the Direwolves. They are hidden, but good presence of mind there. It's always nice to see that kind of deployment, because it, unless I'm mistaken, it shows that the Wood Elves were a little concerned about what the Vampire Counts might be doing, and let's take a look at what they are doing here. We've got the Zombies up front in the main line, again able to absorb those initial charges and of course hold the enemy in place, while the Graveguard as well as the Stearnsmen back here are able to push through, or of course come in from the sides and push in from the rears if the opportunity is there. Meanwhile, all the way back in the center, we do have the Crypt Horrors as well as the Red Duke, and again, the Crypt Horrors bringing in their armor piercing and their poison damage, either through the front lines or able to come in from the flanks and the rears, while the Red Duke as well providing magical support, and of course, a fair amount of damage as well if he gets involved here. These Skeleton Spearmen on either flank as well, able to hold down any enemy large units that might come in, or push in towards enemy large units in the center, or of course, if there are none, come in from the sides, from the rears, and just provide that extra support with morale and health, of course. Meanwhile, over here, we do have the White King, as well as both Blood Knights, again able to push forward and sneak through these trees and get some nice and early damage in if necessary, or come in from a surprising angle, while the Dire Pack and the Direwolves up here as well, just getting the information nice and early on, making sure that the Wood Elves don't have anything deployed in the trees over here, and again able to push forward and come in from a surprising angle. And finally, we've already seen these guys, but this unit of Direwolves again tucked away all the way back there, Vanguard deployed just to sneak in and try and get into the archers nice and early. So again, these guys able to come in from multiple directions, from similar directions, I suppose. Some could have been coming in from that side, but able to come in and split apart and do a lot of harm to enemy range units. So good thinking there with the deployment. Now, let's get started here as the Sisters of the Thorn do push forward nice and early alongside Orion again, trying to get some damage in because they both can. They can kite from the get-go, and you'll see at the same time we do have the Direwolves, the Dire Pack, and the Direwolves back here pushing forward to try and get some early hurt. And it's relatively predictable where the Wood Elves are hidden if they are together, and as the Direwolves back here do push in, you'll see these guys are going to start arranging themselves to defend themselves from that inbound charge. So these Dryads do push in. They try to get into position here while the Glade Guard over here as well get into position to open shots off at the Direwolves, while the Dire Pack and the Direwolves up there are chasing after Orion. So you'll see the Direwolves over here closing the gap, trying to shut the Glade Guard down nice and early. Now it's very clear, very obvious that they are in fact there, so continuing the chase. Unfortunately, they don't know about the Dryads, and in just a moment's time, there you have it. The Dryads are now visible. Unfortunately, the Direwolves actually don't pull back. They engage fully, and they take a lot of damage right away. A very dangerous situation for them to be in. Some of them do get through and hit the Glade Guard, but almost instantly they start crumbling, you'll see. Meanwhile, over here, between those Hounds, Orion's firepower, and the Sisters of the Thorn pushing in, you'll see the Dire Pack and the Direwolves have taken a lot of damage. The Direwolves, in fact, about to start crumbling, while Orion has kept himself safe, popping Foe Seeker to make sure he's able to stay away from these guys, and you'll see the damage done is absolutely massive. Again, the Direwolves already starting to crumble. You'll see they're at less than half health. The Dire Pack as well at about half health. So very well done there by the Wood Elves, making sure that these guys get taken care of, and the Vampire Counts need to pull these guys back right away, and so they do just that, just to make sure they don't get completely shut down. But that's kind of unfortunate here, especially back here. These Direwolves completely crumbling, absolutely disintegrating, and completely taken care of right from the get-go. We're only a handful of seconds into the battle itself, and already the Vampire Counts have taken a decent amount of damage to some very essential units based on the enemy they're up against. They're against an enemy that has a lot of range support, and so you want to keep your very fast-moving units alive, and unfortunately the Vampire Count's just unable to do that so far. Over here, you'll see the Sisters of the Thorn are pushing into the trees over here just to get some scouting done, making sure that there's nothing else sneaking up on them. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see Invocation from the Heck does go down on the Dire Pack and the Direwolves, tucking them into the trees over here just to keep them safe from bombardment and ranged fire. Good call. And also, of course, Invocation from the Heck upgraded, in fact, just to bring these guys into some fighting capability. So good call there. Need to keep these guys alive because they can be very helpful in an engagement against the Wood Elves. Meanwhile, you'll see over here, Orion has popped Foe Seeker. Again, he wants to get that early damage in while the Sisters of the Thorn finish their scouting maneuver there, but you'll see Orion spots this beautiful clump over here and just make sure to try and hit it with his Hounds. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but of course it is just an ability, so might as well try. Meanwhile, we also have the bombardment coming in. Unfortunately, the Sternsmen do push right past that bombardment before it does hit the ground, and the Cryptors here are able to actually respond and pull away, so great micromanagement there. Sternsmen take very little damage there, but regeneration is going to take care of that. Meanwhile, you'll see the Dire Pack and the Direwolves pushing in towards Orion over here, who has been hit by Elsif, so great use of Elsif there, making sure that Orion isn't able to get away. And look just how slow he's moving. Not only that, but his physical resistance has been reduced significantly, as well as his melee defense, so he is going to take a decent amount of damage from the Dire Pack and the Direwolves, as you can see, as the Red Duke as well is pushing in to get involved. Meanwhile, you'll see here the Wood Elf army is mobilizing as well. We've got them all pushing forward out of the forest here, out of the trees, swarming out to try and get some damage in and try and protect Orion. He's in a very dangerous situation, of course. Meanwhile, the Sisters of the Thorn as well, needing to push into this engagement. They do activate the Curse of Vanra here on the Dire Pack and the Direwolves here, making sure that Orion is able to get away. So great use of that ability there, reducing the speed of the wolves here, making sure they're not able to keep Orion bogged down. And meanwhile, you'll see the Glade Guard over here opening shots off, trying to get some damage in, while the Red Duke is now unable to actually close the gap. And you'll see as the Sisters of the Thorn push in, the Red Duke does decide to pull away. He doesn't want to get into a dangerous situation here, pulls these zombies up, but unfortunately they're just off from bogging the Sisters of the Thorn down. They're able to just sneak by while the zombies are slowly creeping up and trying to get out from under the ground. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see we have another set of Hounds coming from Orion here, hurting the Direwolves just a little bit more, while the Curse of Vanra is still active on them, trying to prevent these guys from catching up with the Glade Guard over here. And these Glade Guard are pulling away, while the Dryads and the Eternal Guard are pushing in to try and protect them from the inevitable. These Direwolves, though, are able to close that gap relatively easily, while up here you'll see Orion and the Dire Pack in close combat. Orion pops Foe Seeker, I think, to try and get away, but he is unfortunately bogged down and taking a lot of hurt, while down here you'll see the Glade Guard do get hit by the Direwolves. So quite unfortunate. They're a great attempt at trying to keep these guys alive. Sisters of the Thorn as well, trying to provide some support with those shots coming in, and you'll see in just a moment, they actually activate Shield of Thorns, or rather the Branch Wraith activates Shield of Thorns on the Glade Guards, just to make sure that these guys are not taking as much damage from the supporting ranged fire that's coming in from some of these other Glade Guard, and at the same time also trying to make sure that they're doing more damage in melee. Meanwhile, the Direwolves also hit by the Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. Obviously, the speed reduction isn't helping right now, but the direct damage being done is going to do a lot of work to make sure these guys get shut down right here, right now, right away. Meanwhile, these zombies, as they're trying to give chase, sorry, I can't hold my laughter back, they're trying to chase the Sisters of the Thorn, and they're very easily able to pull away, of course, and get some shots into the zombies as well. Meanwhile, over here, we continue this engagement as Orion is taking a decent amount of damage from the Dire Pack, so a bit of a tough spot that Orion is in right now. Meanwhile, you'll see over here, the Direwolves very quickly being taken care of. They are, well, they're going to start, well, rather, they are crumbling right now, so not a problem anymore. Meanwhile, the Sisters of the Thorn as well, deciding to get involved in melee, just trying to shut these guys down right away. There you have it, completely disintegrating, and they are gone. Now, you'll see over here, we have the Glade Guard firing initially at the zombies here, getting some damage done, but now as soon as the Cryptors get within range, opening shots at the Cryptors, and you'll see in just a moment's time, all three of these Glade Guard units focus down on the Cryptors as the Dire Pack are taken care of. So, great presence of mind there from both armies, as you'll see right now. We've got all three units of Glade Guard with their Starfire Shaft opening shots off at the Cryptors. Great target selection. These guys are susceptible to fire damage since they have regeneration, but the Vampire Counts are not foolish. They pull them back right away. As soon as the focus fire starts coming in, you'll see the Cryptors have responded. They're being pulled away into some safety. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see the Dire Pack has largely been taken care of. They're crumbling right now, but Orion wants to seal their fate, brings the bombardment down just to make sure these guys do not return. There's no chance of them coming back. Meanwhile, the Cryptors as well taking a decent amount of damage as they retreat, and now we do have Earthblood going down on Orion, just trying to make sure that he does survive. The Dryads getting a little bit of benefit from that as well. So Orion being pulled back, the entire Wood Elf army being pulled back as the Vampire Count Cavalry finally decides to get involved. These guys were tucked away in the woods for far too long, and finally pulling in far too late. The Wood Elves were a little disparate, they were a little spread apart, but now they're starting to clump together again. They're responding to all this aggression. These guys are pushing in, so the Wood Elves are able to pull back, and you'll see these two units of Eternal Guard as well pulling out, while the Wildwood Rangers over here, the Dryads over here, and the Dryads all the way over there, there's no need for them to reveal themselves just yet. So keeping some of those cards up the sleeves still, great call, but these guys do need to be pushed forward because, of course, the Blood Knights are right there, as is the White King. So these guys might push in this way. So just to make sure they don't get too adventurous, these guys are being pulled out and potentially being used to shut them down if necessary. At the same time, you'll see Orion got a little adventurous there, popped Foe Seeker, pushed forward, activated his hounds in these zombies, doing just a little bit of damage. Again, no harm done. It doesn't cost any winds of magic or anything. Gets in, activates those guys, and then again pulls back into some safety. No need to stay out there, no need to get caught out. So a good call there, just, trying to get some damage in as these guys are creeping towards the army. And at the same time, you'll see we have a bit of spread going on over here. We've got the Sisters of the Thorn heading this way to try and take care of the Blood Knights. The Glade Guard over here heading this way as well, while this unit of Glade Guard opening shots off at the Skeleton Spearmen. These guys do have bronze shields, so they're not going to take as much damage as, say, the Sternsmen, who would have been a much better target because they have regeneration as well, so they'd make the ideal target for the fire arrows as well. Now, at the same time, we do have the Sisters of the Thorn frightening the Blood Knights away, keeping them at bay, while the Glade Guard over here opening shots off as well, getting some damage in. And all the way over here, you'll see the Branch Wraith is actually pushing forward, just getting a little adventurous again, wants to get a cast off, pokes forward, gets within range, and actually activates upon the Sternsmen Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, and then pulls away. So you'll see great management there as the Skeleton Spearmen get very heavily hurt with that focus fire from both of these Glade Guard, getting a lot of damage in there, getting these guys into critical binding, very close to crumbling. And at the same time, Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma goes down on the Sternsmen, just causing a little bit of damage. And great target selection. These guys are a more threatening infantry unit among the ones that the Vampire Counts have brought to the field. So targeting them with this, not only for the damage, but also slowing them down. The rest of the army is now going to be pushing forward a little bit faster than the Sternsmen, so just trying to separate the army a little bit as well, but the Vampire Counts do slow down to make sure the Sternsmen are able to catch up. Meanwhile, back here you'll see the Sisters of the Thorn sort of hurting the Blood Knights as if they were sheep, causing a little bit of damage here and there, while the Glade Guard continue to get some shots in to these Blood Knights, and again, just doing a little bit of damage here and there. And meanwhile, you'll see as the damage is kind of done to the Skeleton Spearmen, some of these guys change their focus fire onto the Sternsmen instead and get a decent amount of work done. Again, they do have regeneration, so they are the ideal target. Meanwhile, over here, Orion trying to stay safe, while the Dryads as well, trying to keep these guys safe. Unfortunately, the Glade Guard over here a little caught out of position. They could be hit by the Grave Guard, but unfortunately, the Grave Guard do not change their direction. They continue to chase the Dryads over here. At the same time, Orion does activate his bombardment again, but really well managed here. You'll see the Grave Guard right underneath the crosshairs there, about to get hit by the bombardment, but just in time, the Vampire Counts pull them back, and they take no damage from the bombardment. Unfortunately, the Hounds do come in to get a little bit of hurt instead. Blood Knights now able to confidently push in through this gap here and try and get some damage in while the Grave Guard resume their chase, pushing forward. The Glade Guard over there get pulled back, and the Eternal Guard actually push forward to try and hold these guys at bay and make sure that the Glade Guard aren't in a tremendous amount of danger. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see we do have the zombies coming up over here. Again, trying to push forward, I think, to try and shut down some of these guys and make sure they're not able to actually push into the Blood Knights and cause a decent amount of damage there. So, good caster trying to help out wherever possible with the zombies. And meanwhile, you'll see another Melkot's Mystifying Miasma does go down on the Sternsman alongside all that ranged fire damage. So these guys are taking a lot of hurt already, below 50% of their health. Melkot's Mystifying Miasma doing a lot of work as well. These guys now deciding to go after the Eternal Guard over here. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see we've got the zombies as well as the Grave Guard trying to close the gap onto these Glade Guard over here. The Dryads will need to protect these guys, as well as these Wildwood Rangers over here now able to push in. They have been revealed, so they might be able to shut these guys down finally. And over here, you'll see a great cast. We've got the Curse of Anrayer going down, shutting down the Blood Knights, both units of Blood Knights, the Red Duke as well as the White King, slowing these guys down significantly so they're not able to close gaps as quickly as they'd like to, and they're not able to get as much damage done from their charges either. Unfortunately, they are still able to push through. The Eternal Guard are a little out of position here because they are closer to these zombies than they are to these Blood Knights, but now being sent in to try and deal with the situation over here, while Orion as well as the Dryads being sent up here as well. Meanwhile, another unit of zombies being brought up over here to try and hold back the Eternal Guard, but very well spotted there. The Eternal Guard did not engage. They didn't fall for the bait. They pulled back right away. Great management there, and this unit of Eternal Guard, meanwhile, able to push through. So good call by the Vampire Counts, pulling these zombies up to hold these guys back from charging into the Blood Knights, but well played by the Wood Elves there as well. Meanwhile, you'll see over here, the Sternsmen finally get into a melee engagement, and they're already basically taken care of. They've barely killed anything. They're taking a lot of damage from the Eternal Guard now. They're at maybe about a quarter of their health left, and they're taking quite a beating. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see the zombies already taken care of. The Wildwood Rangers, again, will make quick work of almost any unit, but the Glade Guard still in melee. They should have been pulled back just a little bit further, and the Dryads should have been sent in to just hold these Grave Guard in place, while you'll see the Wildwood Rangers over here. We don't see this often enough. They were sent out to the side and are now being pulled in from the side to get a side charge in, do that morale damage, and get more DPS in. So we don't see that often enough, and it's finally happened. Now, meanwhile, over here, you'll see the Eternal Guard were pushed in alongside the Dryads to try and take care of the Grave Guard over here, but unfortunately, they've opened themselves up to these rear charges from the Blood Knights. And even though the Curse of Anrayer is active on them, slowing them down and reducing the effectiveness of their charges, it's still a lot of hurt coming in from the Blood Knights, and we do have the Red Duke coming in there as well. Earthblood does activate to try and keep these guys alive, but unfortunately, that's going to be far too little, far too late. You'll see over here, we do have the Eternal Guard pushing in, trying to hold these Blood Knights in place and get some damage in. It's a great opportunity, of course, and over here, we have another unit of zombies brought up to try and shut down the Glade Guard, but unfortunately for them, the Glade Guard, quick to respond, are being pulled away right away, while Shield of Thorns does go down to try and keep the Dryads alive and fighting for longer in that engagement against the Red Duke. Meanwhile, we do have Melkot's Mystifying Miasma going down on the Blood Knights over here as well, just to hold them in place, slow them down, and get the Eternal Guard in there, trying to help these guys catch up to shut down the Blood Knights and get some damage in as well, of course, because these guys are extremely threatening. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see we do have the Crypt Horrors as well pushing in, but they've already been taken care of because they were just the target of a lot of ranged fire damage, and so they're taking a lot of hurt already, and before they're able to get fully involved, they're already crumbling. So these Dryads and the Eternal Guard are able to get a decent amount of damage into these guys, and these Eternal Guard as well brought in for a rear charge around the Sternsman over here. So great management there. Unfortunately, the Skeleton Spearmen able to push in now and get some hurt done of their own. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see these two Wildwood Ranger units able to take care of those zombies that were over here, and now focusing on the Grave Guard, they've started crumbling already as well. Dryads holding them in place, while over here, the Glade Guard, scot-free, able to get away, taking some damage. I can't call them unhurt, but they're not as hurt as they may have been if they weren't that well managed. Blood Knights, meanwhile, pushing into the Branch Wraith, and the Eternal Guard over here unable to actually close the gap. Unfortunately, they are bogged down in this engagement against the zombies, so well done there. Meanwhile, the zombies over here chasing after the Glade Guard, who are trying to keep themselves alive, and you'll see over here we do have the Sisters of the Thorn pushing into melee to, again, just try and keep the Glade Guard alive. Going into melee will bog these zombies down. They'll take a lot of damage as well, and it'll free up the Glade Guard over there to open shots off instead. Meanwhile, over here, we do have the bombardment going down just to hurt these Skeleton Spearmen as they are in a blob, and meanwhile, over here, we've got the Eternal Guard pulling away to try and hold the Blood Knights in place as they take some fire damage as well, but you'll see their target was actually not the Glade Guard. They were actually aiming for the Dryads over here, so they're getting a nice rear charge into the Dryads, and they're going to do a lot of work. Meanwhile, Invocation of the Heck trying to keep these Skeleton Spearmen alive. I think that's more for the Sternsmen, to be perfectly honest. Their regeneration alongside Invocation of the Heck will keep them alive for a little bit longer, but they're in a very precarious situation. Crumbling right now. The magic might help them come out of crumbling and keep them alive, but they're in a very dangerous situation. The Blood Knights as well pushing in there to try and keep the Sternsmen alive because they are a very important unit. Meanwhile, we have over here the Wildwood Rangers pulling out and pushing down this way. Now, initially, I think going after the zombies because the Graveguard here already taken care of. They were a non-issue, so these guys are able to sort of push in and get involved in this crucial engagement that's taking place right here. And meanwhile, these zombies trying to close the gap on the Glade Guard over here, but these guys again responding by pulling away. And meanwhile, all the way to the left over here again, as I mentioned earlier, the Sisters of the Thorn able to keep these zombies engaged, so the the Glade Guard are able to pull away, stay safe, and open shots off into the backs of these zombies. So great management there. Meanwhile, over here, Orion is being bogged down not only by Elsif, but also the White King himself. So a lot of damage being done there, while his hounds are taking care of some of these zombies, getting a little bit of damage in again. Not too much, but every little bit counts. Meanwhile, over here in this clump, you'll see we do have Earthblood going down. Again, just trying to keep these guys alive, hold these guys in place. And Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma does go down on these Blood Knights again, just trying to cause that damage and also slow these guys down as they try to chase into the Branch Wraith. Of course, they're in the trees as well, so that's going to slow them down too. And look at the amount of damage done. Those Blood Knights have taken a lot of hurt. Meanwhile, all the way over here, you'll see those zombies are basically taken care of. And so the Sisters of the Thorn able to dive in against the White King to try and keep Orion alive, who is pulling away. Pops Foe Seeker to stay fast and stay alive. He's taken a lot of damage, so in a very dangerous situation there, while the Red Duke as well now trying to push in and get some damage and finally trying to hurt these Glade Guard down there. Meanwhile, the central engagement over here, the Sternsmen now falling apart, completely crumbling. They're very low on health. Skeleton Spearmen as well don't really stand that much of a chance, while that range fire is supporting the Branch Wraith, hitting the Blood Knights over here, and they're taking a lot of hurt. While you'll see over here, the Red Duke actually dives into the Glade Guard, getting a lot of work there. Meanwhile, the Dryads in the center here, they've taken a lot of hurt. They've taken a bit of a beating, so they're falling apart, while the Graveguard as well, very close to crumbling. Blood Knights as well, still being scared away by the Eternal Guard that are forever vigilant, forever chasing, while over here you'll see we do have the Dryads fall apart, and all the way over here now the zombies give up on their chase on the Glade Guard over here and decide to come down this way instead. Maybe chase after some of these Wildwood Rangers, maybe get a rear charge into these Dryads or the Eternal Guard, and hopefully have them fall apart. Meanwhile, at the same time, these Eternal Guard with shields now pushing in this way, trying to get a rear charge on these guys, helps get these guys to start crumbling, reduce their morale a little bit, and get some work done. Meanwhile, all the way over here, you'll see the Red Duke does bring up another unit of zombies again, just to bog down this unit of Glade Guard, keep them in place so the Red Duke can free himself up and get involved in more interesting locations. Meanwhile, we do have another Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma targeting the already significantly hurt Blood Knight unit, not only slowing them down as they try to charge into the Sisters of the Thorn, but also causing a significant amount of damage. The Hounds go down as well as the Bombardment because it's pretty predictable where these guys are going. A lot of damage being done there, so well played. Great use of Orion's abilities and magic there as well just to hurt these guys, but unfortunately they are able to survive, so they're able to make it through. Foe Seeker does go down on Orion again, just trying to get out of there in a very precarious situation. You'll see we also have Earthblood going down, trying to keep these guys alive, especially Orion. He's in a very dangerous situation. The Red Duke now giving chase. Invocation of Nehek trying to keep these guys alive as well, keeping the Blood Knights in action, and the Red Duke now just trying to shut down Orion, causing a lot of pain. So Orion needs to get out of there. The Dryads there, you'll see, do get pushed in to try and hold the Red Duke in place alongside the Eternal Guard, just trying to make sure that Orion stays alive. He should have been pulled back a little bit further, because you'll see there the White King able to push through and continues to pummel Orion. A lot of hurt going in there. The Blood Knights as well giving chase. He is being bogged down, and you'll see we do have Elsif going down as well, so now he's in a very dangerous situation as the White King continues to close that gap alongside the Blood Knights. They actually get pulled back to provide some support. The Branch Wraith goes in there to try and keep Orion alive, but unfortunately between Elsif and the White King's damage and his pummeling, Orion is in a very, very bad situation, very low on health, and there you have it. He does die. Most unfortunate, but now you'll see the Dryads there pushing in, trying to take advantage of the situation and shut these guys down once and for all, while the Branch Wraith as well caught in that situation, and the Flaming support coming in on these Blood Knights, getting them to crumble, getting them to fall apart, and the Red Duke now pulling away alongside these Blood Knights. You'll see the Curse of Honor here, though, does go down to try and keep them bogged down so that the Eternal Guard can continue to cause damage to the Blood Knights, slow down their approach to these Glade Guards so they can continue to get more shots off rather than less. Unfortunately, the White King is still free to do whatever he pleases. He is not under the influence of the spell, so he's able to close the gap if he so chooses. The Red Duke, though, continues to give chase. Curse of Enra here be damned. He's still relatively fast, and he's able to close this gap and dives right into these Glade Guard, causing a significant amount of damage. And over here, you'll see as well, we've got the Wood Elves having the upper hand. The Dryads, the Eternal Guard, able to take care of the Glade Guard that were over here. The Skeleton Spearmen as well. Sorry, the Grave Guard, not the Glade Guard. And the Wildwood Rangers over here able to take care of these zombies. Not really much of an issue. The Red Duke, meanwhile, pushing down over here, trying to get involved, and then deciding to go after these guys instead, the Glade Guard, while the Curse of Honor here still active, still keeping him slow. So in a very dangerous situation there. You'll see slowly but surely, though, the Vampire counts are falling apart. They are starting to crumble. You'll see a great charge does go in there, but that is far too little, far too late by the Red Duke. He's getting fully surrounded. Shield of Thorns does go down just to make sure these guys are getting more hurt in than less. White King as well, about to fall apart as he gets swarmed completely. Great battle. Red Duke does fall apart, unfortunately, so both commanders have fallen. And at the end of the day, it's a glorious, albeit Pyrrhic victory for the Wood Elves. It is very easy to hate on kiting, especially when it's well done, and this is a case where it was very well done. The Wood Elves were constantly able to slow the enemy down one way or another, or increase the gap between them and the enemy to maintain a constant shower of fire and just keep the vampire counts chasing. The vampire counts had the right idea with the dire wolves and the dire pack and their placement, their early aggression, and just the way it all started off. Unfortunately, they just weren't managed properly and didn't get nearly enough damage in before being taken off the field. As a result, they weren't even forcing the Wood Elves on the back foot with a constant threat of attacks from multiple directions. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight such intense play from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.